You were created to be an emotional being. Sometimes our strongest and deepest emotions can function just like smoke from a fire. If we're willing to follow the trail of smoke long enough, we can find out what's on fire deep in our hearts. And once we find where all the smoke's been coming from, we can begin to deal with the issue before it consumes us completely. Just like physical reflexes, your emotional responses were created by God. The question is, will you choose to ignore them, or will you use this smoke from a fire to find out what's really going on below the surface?
I'm glad you're here today to be a part of a new series that we're starting. But if you're here for that first couple of times, maybe that first few times you're not sure about what's going on yet, I want to make mention of something that is super important. If you're here maybe the first time, 2, 3, 4 times, and you just kind of have questions, we've got a thing that's happening right after this service today. It's called First Steps. And we'd love to invite you to it. Even when you sign up, you're okay. We'd love for you to be there. It's right next door at Fun Zone where we launched 8 years ago. And we just have a little bit of environment, get some pizza, we'll take care of childcare and everything. Just a place for you to get to meet some people and talk a little bit about Journey. And we'll answer a lot of questions for you. I promise you won't regret it. It's right after the service. Just let me know. Stop by the starting point room. I'll be in there right after the service is over. Hey, if you're here for those first few times, you probably have some questions about people around here, because I get it. We all have questions about them too, But the truth is that we want you to know this about this group of people. We are not a group of people that used to be people like you. We're not a group of people who try to fix people like you. We're not a group of people who just tolerate people like you. We're a group of people just like you, who are just trying to figure out a better way to live. And we believe that that better way to live is in a relationship with the God that created us through the person of Jesus Christ. And that matters to us, because we're just trying to figure this out, because that really gives us the ability to deal with the other thing that kind of binds us together. We all have anxiety in our life. There's not a single one of us who doesn't deal with anxiety. Maybe at a level 1 or a level 21, it doesn't matter. But we all deal with anxiety in our life. If you've ever had a small child in your home, like an infant or a toddler, you know what anxiety is, right? I mean, you get it. Like, it matters to you. Anxiety is one of those things that we all understand. We all experience pain in our life, things that happen in our life. And when we go to metabolize or process that pain, we can do some of it. We can metabolize a certain amount of it, but then there's the rest of it that's left over, and we don't know what to do with that pain. The rest of that leftover pain, we got to do something with it. So we wind up trying to mitigate it. What we can't metabolize, we try to mitigate or put off or process some other way. We either go to something to numb it, or we go to something to hide it, we go to something to avoid it, or we do something to try and get around it, and then that stuff just comes back on top of us. And it's like anxiety just that presses on us. We worry about stuff. We process things more than we should. We overthink the overthinking of it. We think about it and we just worry, and it winds up wrecking a big part of our lives. We wind up crippled by it at some point or another, because anxiety is a part of every one of our lives. Now listen, I'm a pretty relaxed guy, right? I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. But we all have those anxious moments, those times where it just presses on us. We're like, where is this coming from, man? There's this guy who was a really smart guy in the 3rd century. His name is Augustine. You might have pronounced his name Augustine. You were wrong. But so I'm just kidding with you. But he's a big thinker, Some have called him the smartest thinker, or the best thinker about Christianity since the Apostle Paul. That's a big deal, right? I am in no danger of people ever saying that about me, right? He's the best thinker since, yeah, okay. So, this is an amazing thing. Even the Catholic Church calls him a saint. He's Saint Augustine, right? Or Augustine. It's a pretty amazing thing to be called it. In fact, in the Catholic Church, he's the patron saint of brewers. I'm thinking I should have been Catholic, right? They have a patron saint of brewers. His contemporary is this guy named, I have to look at this one, Arnulf of Ogdenburg. Who cares about that part? He's the patron saint of hop pickers. I'm thinking, that's a pretty cool job, I'm thinking, right? You're the guy who's the saint over, like, okay, well, whatever. So anyways, but this is pretty crazy stuff that he says. But he goes on this kind of 3rd century discourse. Now, when I say 3rd century discourse, which means I'm not going to read it to you because like you have to diagram sense to understand it, and it's tough, a lot of words. But what he basically boils it down to say is that there are some things in life that come to us that aren't intended to be signs of things, but man, it's like smoke from a fire. Experience tells us that when there's this kind of thing happening in our life, there's something else going on. Okay? Like smoke in a fire is like that. Now let me just give you an illustration. If you walked out into your driveway today, and there was a puddle, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, of pink fluid where one of your cars was parked. We know that that's a problem, right? Like there's something leaking that's pink, and those of you who have some idea might be transmission fluid, right? This is a big deal, right? Now, granted, someone, your neighbor for instance, could have come over to your house, cracked open a bottle of transmission fluid, and poured it out where you put your car, which would be a hilarious joke now that I think about it, okay? You should just go do that to all of your neighbors right now, okay? Just pour out transmission fluid in their yard. That could have happened, but the likelihood, right, the experience tells us when there's fluid on the ground where our car is parked, the likelihood is that our car that was parked there has some sort of issue. For instance, you're in your yard and smoke is billowing out of upstairs, right? You're looking at it and going, I love the smell of smoke in the fall. You know, there's just something about wood burning. No, right? When you see smoke, you automatically assume that there is fire, right? I mean, like, it's the way things have gone, right? This whole statement, like the idea of the statement, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? We know that. That statement is true. It comes to us. The etymology of it goes back to Augustine when he says this whole thing, that there are some things that come to us that aren't necessarily signs of the cause, but experience tells us that when there's smoke, there's fire. That's what we learn all the time. And the same thing is true when we have an emotional response. When we experience anxiety or depression or fear, or we experience shame, when we experience those things, they just come to us like smoke from a fire. You can deal with the smoke if you want. And you can fan the smoke away, and that's great. But the problem is, if we don't kind of root in and figure out what's on fire, we're just going to keep having smoke. The smoke will kill you slowly, but the fire destroys everything it touches. So if we're not careful, we'll back up and kind of clear out the symptoms, right? We'll fan away the smoke, and we'll never identify what's really on fire. And if we don't figure out what's on fire, it will destroy our relationship with God and probably our life. Our anxiety is the same way. When we have anxiety about stuff, I mean, we have a tendency to run away from things. Like I said earlier, when we have anxiety that we have in our pain that we have in our life, we go to metabolize part of it or process part of it. But then what we can't process, we mitigate. We push it away, right? Like we have a tendency, I wrote down some ways that we do that, right? You might run away from people so that you can hide when you can't process your pain. You might run toward people because it's a distraction. You might get worried about little things and be wringing your hands. You can't worry enough, it feels like. Or you might run to alcohol to numb the pain, or you might look at porn so that things feel in control. Or you might run to humor so that you can keep things manageably light. That's my deal, right? When I deal with pain or things that I don't like to process, I make jokes, right? I'm the guy who literally makes jokes at funerals. I'm the guy speaking at funerals, and people generally laugh. I'm the guy, if you are in the hospital and having a surgery, and you're really serious and worried about it, do yourself a favor. Don't call me, okay? I love you. I'd gladly come up there and pray with you, but I'm the guy who sees the rubber gloves hanging on the wall and wants to blow them up on my head, okay? So, it's not because I don't think it's important, it's just because this is too much for me to process, and it's easy for me just to make a joke and keep everything manageably light. That's how I run from pain. We run from pain in different ways. When we can't process things, we have a tendency to kind of push away from them and hide them, numb them, do whatever to get away from them. And that's how we all are wired to act. But the problem is, man, if we don't get a hold of that anxiety, if we don't get a hold of that issue, what happens to us? we wind up crippled by it. I mean, like, think about it. If you have anxiety about money, you could get to a point where you eventually either hoard things to you or steal things to make it better, right? I mean, or you wind up at, give me a $5, like I do on Saturdays, you know? And you're like buying stuff you don't even remotely need, you know? I'm buying stuff, I'm like, hey, look what I got, babe. She's like, that's completely worthless. I know, but it's so cool. It's a spring. I got it for $5. Like, you know, like you just get stuff. You can either hoard things or you wind up stealing things. If you have anxiety about success, you could wind up being irritable or impatient with people. You just wind up getting to the point where it's all about what you want to do and how you succeed and how you kind of push the buttons on your safety and your security by succeeding more. Or maybe if you have anxiety about relationships that are around you, you have a tendency to withdraw from people. You have anxiety about those relationships. You don't even want to be by them, so it's safer for you. You should be safe by yourself, and you withdraw from people, or you become indifferent to the idea of having relationships. Or you have anxiety about what other people think, and you have a tendency to stretch the truth. You know, tell stories that are grander. That's mine. When I have anxiety about what people think, and I want people to like me, I want people to laugh at my stuff, I want people to enjoy being around me, so I gotta like make the story bigger than it really was, you know? My wife's like notorious for calling me out going, did it really happen that way? That's interesting. Because I was there and I don't remember it like that. You know, so I'm like, well, I'm a preacher, I give a little bit of license, you know, I'm not taking off. But the truth is that, like, if we could get a hold of anxiety, we could get a hold of a lot of issues in our life, couldn't we? Because the anxiety tells us something deeper about what's going on in our lives. If we could process what was the fire that comes out of smoke and anxiety in our life, man, we could really get a hold of some stuff. Matthew tells the story of Jesus and his interaction with people about anxiety. Now, you've probably heard this if you've been around church at all. You've probably heard this in a different context because he talks about money here. But money is just the example that he uses. And he starts, I think it's in verse 24 is where we pick up. And, I forgot to mention this because this is important stuff. When we talk about this, I want us to get something. We do worry about what we value most. That's a big deal to us. This is huge because Jesus talks about money in this example when he opens this passage up. So we're just gonna look at this a tiny bit, but look at verse 24. It says this: no one can serve two masters, for you will hate the one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You can't serve both God and be enslaved to money. That seems like, man, it's a little tense, isn't it, God? I mean, like, Jesus is really putting it down here, and it's kind of painful, because he says you can't love God and money. You'll serve one and hate one, and it's rough. He says, that's why I tell you not to worry about everyday life, whether you have enough food or drink or enough clothes to wear. Isn't life more than food and your body more than clothing? I mean, he hits this thing, and he kind of puts his finger where it hurts on us, doesn't he? I mean, this is like he's putting his finger in the sore for us, because I want you to get something. This is so important that you understand. God is not above or afraid to put his finger in the thing that hurts most to get at your heart. And that's what he does here. He's like, hey, I know this is where you live. Every one of us struggles with the issues that come around money, right? I mean, he could have used any other kind of example. He could use relationships. He could have used parenting. He could have used your marriage. He could have used your success. He could have used your job. There's lots of things, but he knows that every person, unemployed or employed, right? Every person, parent or not parent, every person in a relationship or not a relationship struggles with money because we need it to live. And so he puts his finger in this wound and opens it up for us and lets us see something that we worry most about, what we value most. That's an important thing for us to understand. We worry most about what we value the most. Let me just illustrate this for you, okay? Really simple. I don't worry about your kids, okay? I mean, I love your kids. I think they're cute, they're hilarious. I love messing with them in the lobby, and we laugh or whatever. But I don't worry about what grades they get. I don't worry if they're caffeinated when they get home. I don't worry if they're all sugared up and running about and all. Ask Chuck and Rachel. I watch their kids, and I get them in the house, and I'm like, all right, who wants Mountain Dew? You know, like, I'm like, let's get some Mountain Dew and let's get some sugar cookies. And that's no different than things are at home for them. But let's have some fun, because you know what's going to happen, right? In a minute, I'm going to box them all up and send them home. I'm going to be a freaking awesome grandparent, okay? Like, I'm just saying, can I get an amen from some grandparents in the room? That's how it works right there. Some of you are like, listen, this is going to be amazing because you're getting your kids back for how they treated you when you were little, right? Right? So here's the deal. So I don't worry about your kids. I love your kids. I value your kids, but I worry about my kids. I don't worry about your kids' grades. I don't worry about if they're going to get into the right school. I don't worry about when your kid gets that awesome little note that says he works and plays well with others, which is teacher talk, for he talks to every freaking person in the room. Like, like when he gets that, when you get that note, I don't worry about it because it's not my kid. I'm like, that's cool. I kind of like being around him. It's fun, you know. The thing is, I worry about my kids. I worry about my family. I worry about my job. I worry about the work I do. I care about the fact that you might struggle through something. I'll pray with you, and I care about it, and I'll think about it, but I don't worry about it like you do because it's your life. You don't worry about my kids. I get it because we worry most about the things that we value the most. And that's what he's doing here. He's putting his finger in that wound that hurts us because we worry about money. We all know how big that is. And that's what he's telling us here. He's like, listen, you guys worry about this stuff, but I got it. Don't worry. He's telling us that when we worry, we make too little of God. That's what J.D. Greer says, and I love this statement. He says that anxiety thinks too little of God. When we get anxious about stuff, when we start worrying and fretting and freaking out about stuff, we make too little of who God is. And isn't this the case that once you make too little of who God is, and we're like, oh man, I don't know if God's big enough to take care of us. We never would say that, right? When a relationship goes south, or when a job goes south, or when money's not coming in, we would never say, I don't think God's big enough to take care of this. But don't you kind of feel that way? Like, oh man, I don't know. I was paying attention. And then the voice of the enemy is the next thing to come in, right? The voice of the enemy telling us, well, God doesn't really care for you like he does them. He provides for them, right? And they're not even living for him. They don't even go to church, right? They don't even care. He cares about them, but he doesn't love you like that. Isn't that kind of how it is? Isn't that kind of how it is for you and for me both? Because we have a tendency to think too little of God, and then we have a tendency to think that God thinks too little of us. Man, the story goes on, but man, that's where we live. And God doesn't mind breaking some things open and causing us a little bit of pain to bring out this truth in our life that we think too little of him. And at the end of the day, when this story goes on, man, it hits us, keeps hitting us where we live. It's pretty crazy. He says, look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them. I mean, they don't have 401ks. They don't have savings accounts. They don't have stuff put away for a rainy day. Heavenly Father cares about them. And aren't you more valuable to him than they are? It's a question we're asking. He asked that question of us because he knows it's a question that we're asking. Doesn't he care about me? And he goes on, can all your worries add a single moment to your life? No, but they can take away a few, can't they? And man, it just feels like it helps. It feels like I'm doing something if I worry about it. If I just fret and I just think about it and I try to connive ways to get around it, it feels like I'm an active part of this thing. Look at what he says next. And why worry about your clothing? Look at the lilies of the field and how they grow. They don't work or make clothes. They don't have like cool stores. They don't have places to get stuff. Yet Solomon, in all of his glory, and the best designers in the world are not dressed as beautifully as they are. You know, God cares so wonderfully about wildflowers that are here today and thrown into the fire tomorrow. He will certainly care for you. Why do you have so little faith? Anxiety makes too little of God. You know, there are two kinds of people in this world. I don't know if you've ran into this truth. There are savers and there are spenders, right? I mean, we know these, and God has a sense of humor. He likes to put them together, you know, in marriages, because I think he just likes, it's entertaining, you know, to sit back and go, let's see what happens next. Right? How many savers we got in the room? Come on, you can raise your hand. Some of you are like, yeah, I'm a saver, because you guys are self-righteous about it. That's right. Okay? And I know. So how many spenders we got in the room? You savers, you cannot raise your hand and point. That's not fair. Okay? Like the spender's like, that's me. I'm crazy. I'm the one who likes to spend, you know? And he deals with these two different types of people. And he does the same thing in these couple of verses. He says one of them worries about how much food they'll have and whether they'll have clothes to wear. Isn't the food in your body and all that stuff more than clothing? And then he tells the other one, it's like, hey, why do you worry about your clothing and what you look like? And aren't you supposed to be beautiful? Because here's the thing that gets at both of us. We all get this. Savers, right? For a saver, a person who's saving, their sense of security comes from money. I mean, isn't that really what's going on? I'm not asking you to nod your head, but your husband or your wife will nod for you. Like, isn't that it? Like, you think that if you got enough money in the savings account, if you got enough money in the rainy day fund, we have a fund we call the oh crap fund. It literally is labeled in our budget, oh crap. It's for when things happen and you're like, oh crap, I got this money, right? That's the oh crap fund. So we have the oh crap fund. But if you got enough money in there, you go, okay, we got the oh crap fund, we got the savings account, then we got the savings account for the savings account, then we got the 401k for the savings account for the savings account for the oh crap fund. And you feel like if you got more and more savings, then it's okay, right? Now you're thinking, oh man, that's really hard on us because you're not a saver. And I'm like, you're right, I'm not a saver. But I'm a spender. But us spenders, man, the key to us spenders is, like, we think that enjoyment, fulfillment, joy, excitement, fun, we think that comes from spending. And we think that life is full of joy if we can just get the right thing, enjoy the right stuff, look the right way, fit in with the right, like that's how we think, okay? Here's the deal, savers or spenders, the problem is exactly the same. The core issue is exactly the same. Whether it's saving so we can have security or spending so that we can have joy, the truth is that at the core, we're both trying to make life work without Jesus. At the end of the day, we're trying to figure out some way to connive so that we can make life work without really needing Jesus. Isn't that really what's at the core of our working? We work to this part where we make little of God, make little of what he thinks about me, and then I gotta make life work without him because he's too little to matter. So now I gotta figure out a way to make myself feel secure or make myself feel joy. And the problem is when we do that, we never get to see that. And here's the problem. And this is what the whole thing kind of centers around for us, is that there are first things and there are second things. The first things in life are God and obedience to him. God and a relationship with him. So if we care about the first things in life, God and a relationship with him, then he'll care about the second things, the parenting, the houses, the cars, the stuff, the joy, the security. He'll care about the second things. But the problem is, he wants us to care about first things so that we open up an opportunity for him to provide for the second things. But our problem is, our anxiety is made too little of God. He can't handle the second things in our minds. And so what we do is we wind up worrying about second things. And when we worry about second things, we lose sight of first things, and we never really get the joy and fulfillment out of the second things. I mean, isn't that the story of your life? I mean, you're like, man, how do you know that stuff? Because it's true of all of us. I'm not reading your mail. I'm not living in your house. I don't hear your stories, right? But I know that's true of you because it's true of me. Is that I make too little of God. I focus on second things. I lose sight of first things. And then I never get a chance to see God provide for the second things, and I never get the joy and fulfillment. Isn't that been the story of your life so far? Every time you pursue those second things, they never quite measure up to what you thought they would be. That car never is as fulfilling as you thought it was. There's always that little disappointment. That stuff didn't play out like it was. That gadget didn't work as well as you thought it would. There's always just something missing from it. And you never quite get the fulfillment you want. And in the process, God gets silent. Isn't that what really happens over and over and over again in our story? That's what Jesus kind of lands the plane on in 31. He says, so don't worry about these things, saying, what will I eat, or what will I drink, or what will I wear? He's not saying it's bad to care about those things. He's not saying it's bad to save. It's certainly great to save. He's not saying it's bad to have nice things. It's certainly okay to have nice things. He's just like, don't let the savings and the nice things have you. Worry about first things first, and then I'll worry about the second things for you. Just trust me. He says, these things will dominate the thoughts of unbelievers, but your heavenly Father already knows your needs. We have this verse that we put on our coffee cups. Seek the kingdom of God above everything else, and live righteously, and he will give you everything that you need. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. That's pretty counterintuitive, and it's impossible to do when you're being anxious. It's impossible to seek God first. When we're worrying about stuff, we're like, God, help me worry about this. Help me fret about it. It's like, hey, stop. You gotta worry. You're worrying too much. Thinking too little of me. I'm fully capable of taking care of you. So the bottom line, and this is not gonna fix anything, to be honest with you. I wish that I could fix your anxiety problems, my anxiety problems, with one 30-minute sermon. But to be honest with you, if I could fix your anxiety problems with a 30-minute sermon, your anxiety problems weren't that bad, okay? So like if you're really that, if we're gonna fix your worrying in 25 minutes and a couple of jokes, it just doesn't matter. Your anxiety wasn't bad enough to even get up out of bed to come in here this morning. But the bottom line of this whole thing is the answer to anxiety, this is an important word, begins with keeping the main thing. The answer to your anxiety begins with keeping the main thing. Worry about first things and let God worry about second things. Because if we worry about second things, we'll lose sight of first things and we never really get joy out of the second things that we pursue so heavily. And I want to give you a few next steps. When I say next steps, what we care about at Journey is helping people take their next step toward Jesus. We don't all have the same next step, right? We can't always have a simple, this is it, we're all going to do this today. Because we come from different places. Our anxiety is different. Some of you have a little bit of anxiety over some things that are going on in your life. Some of you deal with anxiety at a massive level. So I want you to know something before we even land in on these next steps. It's okay to not be okay. But it's okay to not be okay. And we need to say that really loud and really clear at church. Because at church, we think you gotta have your game face on, right? You can't be a mess at church. You can be a mess here. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to struggle with your anxiety. It's okay to struggle with worry. It's okay to struggle with depression. It's okay to struggle with shame. It's all right. You're among friends. You're in good company. We all do it, right? In church, we think it's not okay to say that we worry about stuff. But worry tells us something. You worry about what you love the most. So you worry about the things. It tells something. It's closely connected to your desire. So think about this just real quick. Consider that you worry most about what you value most. And the things that you value most tell you something about who you really are. Your desires at the core of who you are. So we've got to understand that when we begin to get anxious and begin to worry about stuff, we have to start by admitting that our anxiety makes too little of God. Too little of God and who he is. It's okay to not be okay. But it's not okay to stay that way. It's not okay to be okay with not being okay. Okay? You know what I'm saying? It's not okay to just be stuck in it. We've got to start somewhere. Now, it may not end here, but it begins by saying my anxiety makes too little of God. Another step you might consider is Thursday nights at Celebrate Recovery. I love Celebrate Recovery. It's a great place for people with hurts and habits and hang-ups, which is every single one of us. And you have an opportunity on Thursday nights to be around a group of people that will help you figure out some steps and make more of God in your mess. And you can listen to their stories. You can share your own if you feel comfortable. But it's a fantastic opportunity, a great environment to take a next step toward Jesus. Another next step you might consider that's kind of a little bit deeper is I want you to answer this question, and I kind of wrote this down. This might be a little bit something you might want to journal about this week. Where is it in your life that you're trying to mitigate your pain rather than asking Jesus into it? Now, listen to what I'm saying, folks. Where is it in your life that you've metabolized some of that pain that's coming? And you're left with this balance of stressors and pain in your life. Where is it in your life that you're trying to mitigate pain rather than asking Jesus into it? I mean, it might be for you and your worry and the time when you're sitting by yourself and you never want to be alone because you don't like to be alone with your thoughts. Or it might be for you a place where you're like, man, I'm mitigating my pain when I drink. Or I'm mitigating my pain when I do this. I'm mitigating, I'm trying to avoid or numb my pain when I get around these people or get away from those people. Let me just give you this next step. This is a great opportunity for you. You've so far numbed the pain that way, but instead of choosing to numb the pain that way, why not ask Jesus into it? Why not ask Jesus to help you metabolize that pain, help you process it, help you work through it? It's so much more healthy when you put first things first. Then you get to enjoy the things in life rather than trying to figure out a way to make it through and making too little of the things that matter most. Let's pray together. Jesus, we're just thankful to you that you don't just ignore us in our pain, or that you don't want us to polish up and look better and feel better before we come to you. We're thankful that you meet us in the middle of our pain, and that it's our weakness that makes you strong. It makes it obvious your strength is enough. God, you have promised us that you will never leave us or forsake us. You promised us that you bind up our hearts and heal our wounds. You've promised us that all of these things come to us if we seek first the kingdom of God and your righteousness. So Jesus, we just come to you. We've been mitigating our pain. And we just want to invite you into it this week, today, right now, in our lives. And we just give it to you, and we pray, Lord, that your Holy Spirit would give us the boldness that's necessary to keep addressing the fire rather than just keep swallowing off the smoke. And we ask that in your name.